Good morning. I hope everybody's doing wonderful on this fantastic Easter Sunday. The reason why I chose Easter to release this video is because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Go figure. So today we're just going to go ahead and dissect Easter a little bit, what it's all about, what the true meaning is, and where we're falling short in God's glory with the true meaning of Easter. So on Friday, it was Good Friday. We kind of celebrated the fact that Jesus came down strictly to die for our sins, to bear our sins that we had no idea how tainted we really were, but he did, and he knew the only way for us to get into heaven, the only way that we would be able to be with him, was for him to be the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate lamb, and die for us. But it was so much more than him just dying. He was tortured. He was whipped. They said that every scar on his back represented every sin upon the world. Now that's a lot of scars. There's a lot of people in the world. There's a lot of sin. That's a lot of scars. So torture aside, we also need to remember that the people that were yelling, crucify him in the crowd, were the same people that he called his people. And I think sometimes we forgot about that. That was people like you and me yelling, crucify him, crucify him. And for him to be nailed up there on that cross and to say, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, that's absolutely remarkable. And we go on to, okay, he was tortured, that's horrible. But on top of that, he was nailed to the cross, and he didn't just die instantaneously on the cross. It's been said that dying on the cross, being nailed to the cross, is one of the worst deaths any man can endure. Because not only do you have nails going through your hands and your feet, he's all scarred up. He also had to carry his cross up to the hill where he was about to be nailed to it. But as you're hanging up there on the cross, you're also slowly suffocating. You cannot breathe. So on top of being tortured, he was also going through excruciating pain while hanging up there on the cross. And that's pain that at least I know myself, I don't know if I'd be able to endure it, especially when I know it's about to happen. We have to remember, yeah, Jesus was God's son, is God's son, but we have to remember that he was human. He felt the same pains that we feel. He had the same exact temptations, but he never strayed away from God. He stuck with God's ultimate plan, even though it meant his death in the end. That's a true father, and it's pretty astounding when you really think about it, when you go into the utmost detail of, here's a guy, he hasn't even met the entire world yet that he's dying for, but he's still willing to do what he did for us. And that to me is remarkable. So we also go into, while he's hanging on the cross, they say he was so covered with sin that God himself couldn't even look at him. Father, why have you forsaken me? God had to turn his back on his only son because of how much sin Jesus had taken up. That's another remarkable fact. So the purpose of this video, while we're thinking back on Easter, of course, Good Friday, we talked enough about that, but leading up to Easter, Jesus rose 3 days later. He conquered death, he conquered sin, and he rose from the grave. And he rose, he died, and then he rose so that you and I can live. So that you and I can live in peaceful eternity that we sometimes take for granted. We have this awesome thing inside us, this relationship with Jesus Christ, and we're too afraid to share it. You're afraid that you're going to be ridiculed. You're afraid that, you might lose some friendships over it. I've heard that people are afraid of it because they might lose their job. And that's not something to be afraid of. I mean, if you truly love your neighbor as yourself, then why aren't you sharing this awesome love of Jesus Christ with them? Why aren't you sharing the gospel? Why aren't you doing one of the ultimate commandments of going on to the world and preaching the gospel? All of that has been forgotten. We go to church on Sunday. We go to church on Easter. We go to church on Christmas. We go to church, go to church, go to church. But we don't take it outside those walls to the people that are really hurting. For example, you don't go to a doctor because you're perfectly healthy. So, same thing. Jesus didn't come to heal the perfectly healthy. He came to heal the broken. And we are in a broken world, a broken country, and we remain quiet. So the last question I have for you is, Jesus died for you. Jesus was beaten. Jesus was tortured. So are you willing to put all those fears aside? Put all those fears aside and possibly, it may not happen to you, but possibly make the ultimate sacrifice of dying for Jesus. God bless you, and I hope you have a fantastic Easter.